Good afternoon, and welcome to a very, very impromptu Our Film Industry Shenanigans Ruining Movie Franchises. We spent a good 6.5 hours this morning listening to Badger talking and thought, we should do a stream about this. We have got with us...
Just because it's funny.
It is. We have got with us Mr. BadTemperedBadger, who has...
I'm angry.
No controversial opinions. We have got Jen's Little Corner, who never has controversial opinions. We have got Godless Scummer, who is a sweetheart most of the time. And we've got Ring, who always has controversial opinions.
Well, you know, I did have an opinion about Monty Python and the Holy Grail that did spark an actual moderated debate, so...
which you lost. You let the side down.
The worst thing is, 10 minutes into that debate, and he had me convinced.
Well, and then the rest of it, Chris convinced you back the other way.
No, let's do it. I fell asleep.
Later on, I'm gonna have to ask for a link to that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, basically, this has been kicked off by one of our participants. Thinks that
I wonder who that is.
who thinks that a certain movie company may have had a negative impact on a franchise that they have acquired. Anyone want to go first?
Oh, we're not
Right,
talking about
so-
things.
Fucking Disney.
What have Disney done?
Well, what have Disney done?
I mean, they make some
What
excellent
have Disney
films, don't
done?
they?
They do.
I'll tell you exactly what Disney's done. Disney has, through an unfortunate series of events, become the custodians of a very old and well-loved movie and other media franchise known as Star Wars. Because of this...
Never heard of it.
Yeah, fuck yourself. Now, because of this, Disney is now the worst company in the world. And we're here to discuss why, although the title mentions films in general, but we may get to films in general.
I was going to suggest several like arms manufacturer companies, but hey, if you want to go,
I was going to say Citation needed there, Badger. That's a big ass claim, that one.
The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Over.
All right, you got me there. No, not necessarily. No, not with that one. The one before that.
The Last Jedi. Citation over.
No, not the Last Jedi.
These are films that are loved by millions of people.
I do not give a shit about millions of people. What you have to understand here is that Star Wars has a core audience. It has had that core audience for 40
Yes, but it's now got a bigger core audience.
fucking shut
Dave, let Badger get his point across. Then we can tell him he's wrong.
There is a core audience for Star Wars, and that core audience is nerds. These nerds have been into Star Wars for literally decades. Star Wars has had a largely consistent, with a few wobbles, expanded universe throughout that time. There have been a few minor retcons, and then later in it a few slightly less minor retcons that made a bit of a stink at the time. And then fucking Disney happened! And they decided to come in and take a massive steaming shit over the entire fucking thing. Disney is literally the reason that the world should end.
So Badger, how do you really feel about Disney?
You're taking a balanced approach.
That is the balanced approach.
That's the balanced approach.
That's my nuanced and balanced
Hey,
approach
Diana.
to Disney.
Well, I mean, how do you expect them to earn any profits from their new acquisition?
Now, you see, they mentioned this earlier when we were discussing this. And here's my thing. I do not give a single self-isolating shit if Disney makes profit. I would happily see Disney fall apart at the seams and never make anything again if they would not make another Star Wars rip-off.
It's not a Star Wars rip-off, they own it.
Fuck off.
They own it. Yeah, they can't rip it off.
They own the
That's like-
intellectual property. You can't
That's
rip
like
that
saying that Coca-Cola, when they replaced all the ingredients, didn't make a shit product.
Yes, but they still own
But
they still own it.
It's still Coke.
Yes, but it's not good Coke.
Yeah, no, I'll grant you, but it's still Coke. So,
All right, let me ask you about this.
Disney owns Star Wars, this is still Star Wars, whether you like it or not.
Let's put it this way. Let's say that, for the sake of argument, Disney bought Coca-Cola and replaced all of the ingredients with water and shit. It would still be Coca-Cola because it has the Coca-Cola brand name on it.
It would
By
be
that
an
logic.
improvement.
Yes, it would.
But it would be
No
genuine
one will buy
Coca-Cola.
it,
But so what about the Mandalorian? Because that is the most thematically Star Wars, piece of media that we've had since the 70s.
Now then, about that. The Mandalorian is a good show. However...
Who makes the Mandalorian?
Oh, fuck off, Dave.
No, I need to know. I need to clarify. Who makes the Mandalorian?
The Mandalorian is a good show. However, I do not consider it part of Star Wars. It is thematically more like Star Wars than anything made recently. Unless you count any of the Expanded Universe books, which I do. Oh, we broke ring. Now, however, that being said, I do not accept anything that contradicts the Expanded Universe as being part of Star Wars.
But the Extended Universe isn't canon.
Fuck off!
Yeah, I mean, Disney own it. They decide what is canon, and they've declared the Expanded Universe to no longer be canon.
Wait, Jen,
It's Disney.
Jen. This leads on for something.
We actually discussed this on Sunday.
Yeah, we did.
Who won?
Badger.
So unless Disney starts, mass murdering people and then torturing everybody else who disagrees, they can't force us to accept what they dictate as canon.
Yes.
Canon.
They put it
You
all.
can still have your
No.
personal canon.
No, what you're saying
And
is.
I can also assert that it is more valid than Disney.
Yeah, but that's your fan fiction.
No, Disney is fan fiction, and they're bad at it.
No, Disney's canon. Everything else, the Expanded Universe, that's now fan fiction.
No, Disney is fan fiction. They are bad fan fiction. The Expanded Universe was established long before Disney took over. They took over and essentially became custodians of the Museum of Star Wars, along with any new stuff going forward.
Ooh.
And what they then did was they went into the Waxwork Museum, melted everything down, formed it into a pile of mush, and said, "This is the museum now."
Question.
I have a question too after.
I have questions as well. But...
You're aware of the works of Tolkien, correct, Badger?
No, I've never heard of him. Yes, go on.
Now, so is the Silmarillion canon?
I would argue yes.
Even though it was compiled by Christopher Tolkien, who was acting as the custodian of J.R.R. Tolkien's estate.
Now I sense there's now I'm going to get my Admiral Akbar face out. I'm gonna,
Hey,
this is a
Amanda.
trap.
Seriously?
However,
That's Disney without me, you asshole. What the fuck?
Hey! We sent you an invite.
I'm putting
Say
my
Badger a
Admiral
new one.
Akbar.
Badger anyone.
I'm putting my Admiral Akbar face on ring and saying this is probably a trap, but yes.
So you're saying that someone could take over as a custodian and produce canon?
Yes.
Like Disney?
No.
So, but I got to say this as well, because I think we mentioned this. I mentioned this earlier to you, Badger, that about you just because you're not because what about
see, I'm Jedi mind tracking him so he can't get his words out.
Did the prequels did the prequels not ruin it as well? Because this was George Lucas, and to repeat what I said earlier. Misa think Disney no particularly Jar Jar.
No, why did you do that?
I'm gonna attempt
Jar Jar
to repeat.
I'm
gonna attempt to repeat how I responded earlier.
What?
Get her the fuck out of here, Dave. Get her the fuck out of here.
I'm going to attempt to repeat how I responded earlier and say no, I don't think so. At the time I was watching the prequels, I thought that there were some issues with them, particularly in the dialogue and the overuse of CGI. However, I never during that period felt they were bad films. There were elements of them that could have done with improvement, but all the expanded universe stuff that they allowed to happen is the stuff that kept the fire of Star Wars burning in my heart for fucking decades.
Right, Dave, sorry to interrupt. Apparently chat's saying they can't see Amanda on screen.
Yeah, fix that.
Okay.
That's fine.
It's normally Jeff. It's normally Jeff I managed to leave off.
So,
well, she's fine, but Amanda's more photogenic than me, so.
Not today.
I wondered where all your hair had gone this morning.
Here. Okay.
Oh no, he's talking about me there. I think because I tied mine back, so.
I came into the chat and I was like, "What's happened to your hair?"
I can do a proper like, you know.
So wait a minute. Why are you saying that the extended universe isn't part of canon? Because a lot of people believe it is. At least
who's that to?
No, he's saying Disney isn't
part of canon.
Okay. Yeah, but Clone Wars is Disney technically.
Now here is where I get a more controversial Star Wars opinion. I don't like a lot of the Clone Wars because they fucked up Mandalorians.
Yes, and I've agreed with you on that. But the show as a whole, especially after the horrible movie and the first season was kind of iffy, it does get better. And I can't help it because it's like my son's favorite thing in the world. Like, you know how much I love Star Wars. He's fucking obsessed with Clone Wars. So
I agree that it does get better, and there are some really good parts of it, particularly the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, which in the films, in spite of me earlier saying that the films were still good films, that was one thing they handled very poorly, was the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. You only see them smile at each other. Exactly. You only see them smile at each other like twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like it's more like the student doesn't really like the master.
And there should be elements of that. But that shouldn't be their entire fucking relationship.
In the prequel,
yeah, but that's got more to do with Anakin being portrayed as a moody teen, isn't it? Sorry, Amanda.
That's the thing. That's why George Lucas wanted him to have this mood, because he knew he was better than everybody else, including Obi-Wan, and you see that in the prequels. They didn't really touch on that as much in the Clone Wars. They made it more of a father-son relationship, and then best friend.
See that. But there needs to be both aspects of that, and that's what the Clone Wars did well. You've got in the films, you have Anakin being the moody teen and I'm better than everyone, and in the Clone Wars, you actually get to see that relationship that really should have had a few more scenes in the films.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, for me, just look at me. Look at how I have chosen to present myself to this stream.
You look normal.
As someone who's
as
someone who's a massive Mandalorian nerd.
Is that a Mandalorian ship?
It's a Mandalorian armor.
I can't even see your armor.
Oh.
Aren't you meant to be wearing some sort of headgear?
Yeah.
Now, that's something that The Mandalorian gets wrong. There has never, up until The Mandalorian, been a requirement for Mandalorians not to remove their helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, as much as I hate not seeing Pedro Pascal's face, it does lend you keep wanting to watch the next episode because you're wondering if he's ever going to take it off.
There are ways that it can be made to fit with actual Mandalorian lore from the expanded universe. For example, given that the amount of Mandalorians in the galaxy has been drastically reduced, it is entirely possible that there is a strong anti-Mandalorian sentiment because of previous things in history. So the culture has adopted, or certain clans have adopted, the idea that removing one's helmet around outsiders is a bad idea. Whereas previously it's just been, we tend not to remove helmets around outsiders because it really fucking freaks them out.
Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that most of the Mandalorians now aren't actually from Mandalore?
Well, that's been a thing for, if you read the books, which I do, that has been a thing for millennia. There hasn't been a Mandalorian species since long before the founding of the Republic.
Mm-hmm.
There was the original species that became the Mandalorians. It was originally, I think, native to Coruscant. They left because they had a big war, which Mandalorians at the time were known to do. Went and found Mandalore, the planet, obliterated a lot of the native wildlife because they were big monsters that were fun to hunt. And the skulls of those creatures became the Mandalorian's emblem, the mythosaur skull. Later on, the original species that was the Mandalorians started to have too many wars and get all wiped the fuck out, the culture adjusted to allow it to take on people from other species, and then later on, after the last of that original species died, the culture became a creed rather than something you're born with. It's something you adopt.
Right.
It's you can be born into it, but even if you're born into it, if you don't follow the culture, you're not a Mandalorian.
I hate to interject here, but obviously this is interesting, but I think we're kind of getting away from the actual point of the stream.
Exactly what I was about to say.
And, and this is about it, whether. And here's the point I was making to Badger earlier, and that is, here's the problem. Badger said, yeah, there is a core audience of Star Wars that are like the for lack of a better term, nerds who are absolute core, who will just consume anything Star Wars. There's also a mass base of casual fans who have grown up on Star Wars. They'll watch any film or whatever that comes out, not necessarily going to explore a lot of the lore outside of that. That's what someone like Disney is going for.
Yeah, there's a lot more of them.
And something else I should add. Here's what the sad truth of it. If I say that, say 10% of Star Wars audience are real hardcore fans, right? They know out of that 10%, even though they might bitch and moan about Disney, maybe only 2% of them are actually going to not consume something they've produced. They know that you can put the name Star Wars on something, people are going to go and see it, people are going to buy it. This is the problem you got here, Badger. This is Disney know this.
I am fully aware. I am fully aware of this. I'm also fully aware that my personal objections to everything they're doing has been factored into their cost-benefit analysis.
It's too expensive to keep you.
I do not give a single fuck if Disney makes money. I would much rather.
That's all they care about.
Yeah, and that's why they should not have been allowed to take over Star Wars.
Well,
Any
Heck, they're leasing their own.
hold on.
It's getting vicious.
Any company that cares more about profit than producing something good cannot be allowed to buy beloved franchises.
But surely that depends on
you're
who owns it.
Every fucking company in the world there at that point, Badger.
No.
Yeah, and if the company doesn't care about profits, sorry.
The reason that George Lucas sold Star Wars to them is because
was money.
Yeah, well, no. Yes, but also no. There was a lot of money involved, which is, of course, a big part of the reason. But another big part of the reason is because George Lucas had found that he was suddenly responsible for a lot of very dedicated fans who were very vocal about the stuff he made.
And he cared.
And he cared enough that it really upset him when he did something they didn't like.
Except it made it worse getting rid of it.
There's also 4 billion other reasons why he sold it as well.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
I agree with you. If you care about something, it is a lot harder for you to change it in any direction where you know you are going to piss someone off.
Yes.
Whereas Disney don't give a shit because they're a corporation, they're not a person.
Yeah, they will go for whatever makes them the most money.
Technically, Jen,
That's the thing.
Jen, technically, corporations are people in this country.
Yes.
Well, in every country, but only technically.
The same.
On paper.
Yeah,
anyway.
On paper. But if you don't have the corporations looking to make money off the product, you will never get product.
Badger!
Sorry, my engines are firing up.
If you don't have them do that, if you don't have them produce content, even if you don't like it, you will never have any content. If they have to be able to make money from it. And I agree they possibly could have made. I agree they could have made a content that would have mostly pleased people like you, Badger, and made good movies for everybody else. But they didn't do that, and just because they did that isn't a good reason to tell them not to make anything else.
It is to me, and that's where we get to this disagreement. I am that little 2% of fans. I am that little 2% of fans that you mentioned earlier that are statistically irrelevant to the profit margin of Disney.
Badger
would rather they made nothing than made shit.
Well, we agree with you. Like Angel and I agree with you about how bad Disney has fucked up Star Wars. I don't think that the two of us could live without them making something else. It would break us. Like we cried coming out of the ninth Star Wars, knowing that it was the last Skywalker movie. Like even though it fucking sucked, we were still heartbroken at the fact that this is over. So, you know, there are people that agree with you, but still can't say just fucking stop making shit because it would kill us.
They could stop making shit right now. They could start. They could. I think this is what, if I'm remembering this correctly, a new chappie has recently taken over Disney essentially, and he's now trying to course correct Star Wars. The problem is there is that certain core fan base that has been so alienated by the shit they've made over the last few years that unless they retconned it out of history and apologized for it, they wouldn't come back.
Yeah, but then they're not going to come back.
Yeah,
they're just written off.
I'm not being funny. You can get to a certain point now with real core fan bases, like real hardcore fans, where this isn't just something to do with Star Wars. This is something, this is a general thing. You get to a certain point where you've got fans that are going to be pissed off no matter what because they think they can fucking do it better. I'm sorry, that's a sad reality to say.
Yeah, I think I could do it better, but
yeah, exactly.
Now let me respond to you there. I think I could do it better, but I would much rather they do it better.
Yes, but yet they are only going to do what will maximise their profits.
That's why they shouldn't be in control of it.
But that's every company. Who should be in control of it that's not going to do that?
It's not every company.
It is virtually every company.
That is every company.
It's any company with a shareholder.
Company on the planet.
Let's look at George Lucas. George
Lucas did it to make money.
Yeah, he did it to make money.
Yeah.
But
why do you think you had Jar Jar Binks? He made that for kids to give them a new entryway into the show, not for the hardcore fans.
Yeah, not just for the kids.
Lisa think Jar Jar, brilliant character.
I'm gonna say I love his Jar Jar.
He did that. Don't make me do Jar Jar. Right. He did that partly as a toy sales thing. And to sell those little Jar Jar heads with the rubbery, sticky tongue on them that I had, and they were awesome. But he also did it. There was a whole thematic reasoning behind doing it, which he ended up not doing because the fact.
You subscribe to the Darth Jar Jar theory.
Not necessarily Darth Jar Jar. I don't know if that's where he was going to go with it. I think that. Asserting that that was definitely the plan.
It was strongly hinted at.
That's
However,
the stupidest fucking theory.
I think asserting.
I'm sorry. Can you not imagine the ears flying around as he fights? Oh.
Come on, it would be awesome. Darth Jar Jar would have been amazing.
You saw Yoda versus
you should
Count
come to the
Dooku,
dark side, Luke.
You saw Yoda fight Count Dooku, didn't you?
I'll carry on. I'll stop with the fucking Jar Jar impressions.
Fucking leave.
You saw Yoda fight Count Dooku, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now imagine that with 2-foot ears.
There's never been a ridiculous lightsaber duel in Star Wars ever. That's never happened.
The point is that either someone retains creative control, right, and that's how we live under the current copyright regime we have, or it basically goes out to the public and it becomes a free market that anyone can do anything with it.
Yeah.
And while someone retains control, you've got to allow them to do what they want.
So, technically, the current copyright landscape that we live in right now is entirely Disney's fault.
Yes, very much
exactly.
So.
Well, they dictated it, and they're still dictating it.
Yep.
If you let someone like Disney have creative control or something, they will fuck it up, and then you will get people like me doing streams like this.
Yeah, but here's the problem. No. Here's the problem. People don't care when these things come up. You care about it now because you're invested in something. I've been there, right? From about 1998 to about 2012, I was part of all the copyright discussions to do with implementing laws across the EU and in America as to how they were going to deal with copyright, and we could not get anybody interested. No one cares because it's a boring subject until it affects what they think, until it affects something they care about.
Now, Dave. I mean you no offense whatsoever.
What?
I'll be back in 5.
Way too polite.
I know.
You are quite old. I have not been around long enough to be in this copyright fight as long as you have.
You know, Badger, he's not much older than me, so you better fucking watch
I'm not much older than him.
Yes, but he is a bit older than me.
So I may as well be ancient.
As long as you're a bit older than me, you're quite old.
The point being,
I might be the only one under 30 in this stream.
You're honorarily older.
Really older.
Ring. I mean you no offense whatsoever. However, you do talk like an old man.
So you're saying I'm wise beyond my years.
Let's go with that. That sounds complimentary.
That's getting cut.
Yes, that is what I mean. I don't mean that you sound like you have trousers up to your nipples.
I didn't mean it like that, Dave.
The point is that someone has to either owns the idea or it is public. And if they own the idea, they get to dictate what happens to it.
And if it's public, you're not going to get the quality of show. I know you don't think there was any quality in what Disney did, but a lot of people still do. There's a lot of people who really liked it and like what they're doing.
I'm going to contradict you there, Jack. I do think there is quality. I do think there is quality in what he's made, and I'll tell you where it is. It is in all of the visual effects people and all the costume people and all the stuff like that who have been Star Wars fans for decades and came in and put their heart and soul and best work into making the new films look like they do.
Yes.
Yeah. They just bring the writers and the producers on that. Not so much. So.
Yeah, if you take the writers and directors and producers and line them up against the wall and shot them all, that'd be fine.
In all honesty, though, I think if J.J. Abrams had done all three, it would have been a lot better.
Don't get me started on the whole fucking foot-following thing, because...
Yeah. No, I know you're growling at me there, Badger, but, I mean, hear me out.
Wait, just wait. I've got to ask a question first. Is there anything redeeming about any of the three films you don't like?
Okay, right.
It's got to be quick.
I'm growling at you, Jeff, because I partially agree and I hate it. I think that they would have been better if J.J. Abrams had planned and done all three of them. They would still have not been good in my eyes, but they would have been better.
Would they have excused just ditching the entire extended universe?
No, they would fucking not.
Is that your key problem here?
Yes. Still Star Wars,
and that is the thing that is unforgivable to me.
So you don't actually care about the films. They could be a pile of shit, and they could be great. The ditching of the extended universe is
about the films,
but not.
I care.
Right, for the sake of argument, let's ignore the expanded universe bit, please. Just for the sake of argument. No, I'm sorry, man. Badger. Let's ignore the expanded universe bit and judge those Disney movies just as movies themselves.
As long as you take the title Star Wars off them, I can do that.
You can do that. You can say not Star Wars. You can say The Force Awakens, and if you don't want to say Force, you can say The Flobjijum Awakens if you prefer. But just talk about those three movies as movies in their own right, and where you think they are fundamentally flawed.
I will use the terminology of the backstroke of the West. The wish power awakens.
The wish power awakens.
If anyone wants to talk before I start going again, please do.
Or
yes, because we don't want your entire notepad's worth of criticisms.
Because I don't want to talk across everyone for the entire thing.
Right.
One of the worst things about the new ones, though, was that they fucked up like the Force laws and stuff. Like they did it again, because in the original trilogy, you know, the Force was something it seemed like you maybe inherited, or they didn't really go into it. But then they brought the fucking midichlorians into the third, or into the prequels, and then in this one, they had all new, you know, powers that came out of nowhere that you've never seen any of the other stuff. Well, okay, some of the stuff in the extended universe and like the comics that you'd have to go way far back in. Like
it's not all brand new.
You're a Jedi, Harry.
You see,
I'm
that could have fitted.
Not to say things.
That could have fitted.
But
you said, I mean, talk before you, so I talk.
It was just.
I don't even care about having new Force powers. What I cared about was how quickly Rey adopted them with no training.
So did Luke. Okay. Luke could be a fucking pilot, like the best pilot in the universe in 5 days. Okay,
but Anakin was the same. If you were strong in the Force, you could be better at doing things than the average person. I'm perfectly fine with the fact that she was good at fighting because she was Force sensitive, and that she could pick up things quicker because she was very strong in the Force. What I have problems with is she could just go out and do things that other Force users couldn't do without at least some training in them, like mind tricks.
Luke was already Luke was already an excellent pilot before he left Tatooine. The Death Star trench run required no skills from him that he didn't already possess before he left Tatooine.
Okay.
I agree, Badger.
Then we have Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. He's done a little bit of Jedi training with Obi-Wan during A New Hope.
Then he goes to Yoda.
Barely fucking do anything at the start of The Empire Strikes Back. He has a lightsaber, which he could just about make come to him after trying for a while. Then he goes and sees Yoda, and he learns a bit more. He gets some more Forcey stuff, and he gets a bit more lightsabery stuff. And then he goes and fights
his daddy. He's asking.
He fights his daddy and gets fucking beaten up.
Yeah.
Then he goes and he practices a bit more. There is a big gap between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
My headcanon says the only reason Luke survived the fight with his old man is that Anakin didn't want to kill him.
Yeah,
Well,
and
no, he
also
didn't. He was supposed to be bringing him back to the
though,
Emperor.
Yeah.
you've got Padawans and younglings that train since they're able to walk, and this was just like a year or so, a couple of years. That's all I'm saying.
But under personal tuition of Yoda.
Yeah, personal tuition of Yoda.
Yeah. Now,
Fine.
a lot of
That's my Star Wars knowledge done.
A lot of the Padawans and younglings, if you watch the Padawans and younglings, they can do a lot more than Luke can do by the time they are like 10 years old.
Yes.
If you look at them compared to him in The Empire Strikes Back, they can already reliably make things come to them with the Force. They can already reliably move things with finesse with the Force.
Yeah.
He can barely call a lightsaber that's stuck in the snow.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But by the
But
time
if you look at him in Return of the Jedi, sorry to talk across you, I've just got another thing to say.
Oh, that's okay.
If you look at him in Return of the Jedi, yes, he's technically, according to Yoda, a Jedi Knight now. However, if you compare him to a Jedi Knight who's actually been properly trained, he's shit.
Mm.
He's been reading a lot of material on lightsaber combat, so he can just about hold his own with that. But he only manages to beat Vader by getting extremely angry and overpowering him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And essentially calling on the dark side.
Back to the topic.
Just a second.
Yeah.
He's still shit compared to most Jedi at this point.
Yeah.
Now compare that to Rey.
To be fair, wait there. To be fair, I hate to do this. To be fair, he became the best Jedi in the universe.
At that time, yeah.
That's still though. Moving on.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to be the best when there's like no competition.
Well, that's the point.
Actually, books there are still surviving Jedi.
Yeah,
They're not canon.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Go on, Jeff.
Well, Ahsoka is. Yeah. But the thing is, we're getting into a lot of lore here, and I think a lot of the criticisms we would have of those last three films, like the fact that Rey is suddenly like the amazing Force wielder without any like training whatsoever. These are all like plot things I'm sure all of us could agree on. But I think we kind of got away from the whole thing of what it gets back to. This is why big companies ruin franchises. Now, I'll go out of Star Wars for a minute and give an example. I'll give an example of something a bit different. This is not film. This isn't film. Okay. I'll give you a different example. This is professional wrestling. Okay. Now, there was a promotion that got a lot of underground buzz in the mid to late 1990s called ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. Now,
okay,
yeah. So this was a very different sort of thing. It was like more aimed towards adults. You just had a different audience from what WWF or WWE as it is now. WWE eventually ECW went out of business. WWE ended up with all the copyrights and trademarks of ECW. But I'll say something about ECWs paper, they had a fan base that was absolutely like a rabid fan base. You know, they really passionate about that product. WWE tried to do their own version. Yeah, they kind of fucked it up if you were a bit fan of that original product. But here's the thing they realised, it's a similar thing with Star Wars. They kind of realised that they were dealing with a very, very small, just vocal minority that didn't affect their profits. So whatever, so they could go and do their own version of it, and they knew that the wider public would still consume that their version of the product. This is what you've got, and I know that's an analogy, but that is what you've got with Disney and Star Wars, or you know, you've effectively got George Lucas's ECW and Disney's WWF. That's effectively what you've kind of got in a certain way here with this.
I mean, we had the same thing with Doctor Who when Doctor Who was restarted back up. Disney. BBC basically wrote off a whole heap of what was previously considered canon in the books and the audio adventures, and just started out again. And I mean, now they're rewriting canon to the point where they're really pissing off the core fan base, but it's not actually going to really diminish the numbers that are watching Doctor Who, because the new people coming in actually don't give a shit about all that early fan base.
I think actually it is reducing the numbers for Doctor Who. I think that
in the UK, yes, but not internationally.
They've had a considerable reduction.
It has, but it is increasing in the younger age bracket, which is what their aim is. They're aiming for.
And as I pointed out the other day, anger at sort of people in charge of Doctor Who is nothing new.
No, it's half of the course.
You go back to the 1980s before the original series. The amount of hatred towards Jonathan Nathan Turner from hardcore fans at one time when he was running the show. Even though arguably some of the stuff he did was very under his era was done is very, very good, and nowadays is kind of like a lot of people think, oh, actually looking back on it, some of that stuff was good. Not all of it. Some of it was awful, but no two ways about it. But this is nothing new.
The best of his
Doctor Who still has that kind of core. You know, it's Doctor Who. That core stayed with Doctor Who, and they're staying with it now.
There's people who won't watch and people who walk away, but a lot of people are going to watch New Who regardless of how crap. I mean, I've been bitching.
I'm a casual fan, but I've not really watched it probably since Tennant's era, really, personally. So I've never been.
Problem is, Tennant was so good.
I liked a lot of the old Doctor Who. I like, Tom Baker would be my favourite. Sylvester McCoy would be one of my favourites, believe it or not.
That's showing your age.
Yeah. I thought Colin Baker was underrated because I don't think he got a fair crack at chance of it.
Colin Baker, if you go to the audio stories from Big Finish production, he is absolutely amazing. He is one of my favourite doctors from that. Paul McGann as well.
Yes.
I mean, I know all he did was that one telly movie and the little episode that Moffat wrote, but
I'm sorry. In terms of going back and doing things, doing that 5-minute episode blew any hardcore Star Wars Doctor Who fan. When McGann turned up in that episode, in that little webisode.
I love that. It almost made people who hated Moffat like him again.
So,
but Doctor's always had this. You've always had people who fucked off because a particular showrunner has not been good, and then they will come back and try the new person. The problem I think the BBC has at the moment is they have Moffat, who was very divisive in who liked him and didn't, and now they brought Chibnall in, who's decided to be even more divisive, and the BBC didn't need that. They needed somebody who was going to re-solidify the fan base, and this could be a problem for them in the long run.
Doctor Who as a franchise though has an advantage there, which is it has a built-in way of fixing itself.
Yes, it does. You're right.
It's a time travel. It's a time travel show.
It's okay. Star Wars will be soon.
Yeah.
So
I've got a quick Doctor Who question for you guys.
Yep.
So
let me guess. Knock knock.
Yeah. So, why was McCoy afraid of McGann?
Oh. Go on.
Okay, come on, tell us. This is a joke,
Because
isn't
McGann hurt Eccleston.
it? That's so bad. My favorite ever scene in any of the Doctor Who's is Ace beating a Dalek to death with a baseball bat.
Oh, damn right.
Lovely.
I love that.
But irrelevant.
Reason,
We cannot talk
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
We've just bitch slapped the Star Wars people for talking about Star Wars outside of the context we are talking about.
Literally nothing about Doctor
No,
Who, by the
I-
way.
I
We
think-
are talking about other corporations destroying things, and you've got to
Yeah.
be honest
Yes.
that the BBC is trying their best to destroy Doctor Who.
They are certainly. I will go and say they are damaging the existing canon. That doesn't mean to say that's
They
necessarily good or bad. They are damaging the existing canon to make new content. And on that,
They are.
there are strong parallels with what is happening with Star
Well,
Wars.
Than Disney. I think it's
No.
one of the strongest parallels actually at the moment.
I
I
think.
think part of the reason
Oh, shit.
that Disney, because Disney isn't just, doing what they're doing with Star Wars. I'm holding reservations on The Rise of Skywalker because I have not seen it yet, and I know I need to see it before
Wait, what
week 3
now?
of May.
What?
He hasn't
I've
watched
been
it yet.
busy.
He hasn't seen it yet.
I am an
He
essential worker.
has only just escaped Faith in the last 18 months. He has got so much stuff he has watched.
Yeah, but
I actually quite enjoyed Rise of Skywalker,
That's
despite all its faults.
anyways,
Yeah, same with me.
anyways, that is not all Disney's been screwing up. You know what, with their remakes, their live action remakes. The only one of those that was any good that I have seen, and to be fair, there are a bunch that I have just said, no, I'm not going to watch. The only one of those that I've seen that has been any good was The Jungle Book, and that was because it actually went closer to the original source material than the animated picture did.
But the animated picture is so much fun.
Like the Lion King one, which was all animated. Like,
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
Disney needs to be broken up as a company. They can't even make Disney films anymore.
no, they can't.
yeah.
Here we go. I mean,
I
Linda,
tried to watch Aladdin.
Linda has a very good point.
Stop telling me to shut up.
Yes, Linda makes a very good point here. If every movie series has to be original, then there would not be anything new.
Exactly.
Yep, that's a
Yeah,
good point.
Tarantino, that's for sure.
Yeah,
He fucking
but
writes about everybody.
I
yeah,
think
there's
Everything's a kind of rehashed idea somewhere.
there's a
along the line,
difference between wanting something, between, it needs to be original and here's a shot-for-shot remake, but in live action.
I have two things to say. One is I think it is entirely possible to make a good thing and a profitable thing without fucking up everything that's happened previously. And two, I think we should look at some of the stuff in the chat.
Yeah.
All right,
But-
Dave.
I've been trying. Right,
Yeah.
badly. Okay, what's Badger's take on Jurassic World movies? Oh,
Don't answer
got-
yet, Badger.
I'm gonna have to take a phone call.
I'm going to come back to that. Start with
Okay, Badger, what is your favourite of the new Disney movies?
I don't have
For
a
Star Wars.
favourite. I don't have a favourite. However, if you want to know which one I enjoyed the most,
Which one did you find least offensive? Would be a better
Rogue
question.
One.
Yeah, I enjoyed Rogue One.
I like
think
Rogue One.
that's the best- I think that's the best movie they've since distance to kind of
Yeah, I agree.
them.
Rogue One was a good film. It was an enjoyable film. However, that's not how they got the fucking
Small film, and nobody gives a fuck about it outside people like us who care about the the actual Star Wars franchise.
And that's the real point about it, isn't it? If you're not a hardcore fan, you aren't going to give a shit about this. And it's the same for Doctor Who. Anyone who isn't hardcore and watched it for years doesn't give a fuck as long as the current episodes are interesting to watch.
I can also look at this from the other end of it, which is, does anyone know She-Ra?
Yes.
Yeah, Princess of Power.
Yeah.
Does anyone know the old show versus the new show?
Yeah, to a degree.
I did not see the old show. I did not see the old show, and I really like the new one.
I like both.
I've heard a lot of. I've not watched the new one, but I've heard a lot of people do like the new one.
Yeah,
I can go into that new one. I can go into that new one with no expectations from the previous one and just go, yeah, it's pretty good.
And by the way,
I do
there's
have
a lot
a
of
point.
people who remember her as a really sexy character in the cartoon to start off with, and they don't see that in the new one. But she's supposed to be a teenager, so they didn't have to go super sexy.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like they don't try really hard to make teenagers sexy nowadays, though. So.
But,
That is true.
again, it's difficult.
Even pre-teens.
But it's difficult to get into, because you talked about something there, you know, like anything like He-Man or She-Ra canon. Let's remember which company created that.
Mattel to sell products.
Mattel to sell fucking toys. The cartoons were vehicles to sell toys.
Yeah, but then
that's why that trend started.
So's fucking everything else. So
Yes,
exactly.
If we're going to
look to what Mattel did, because Mattel, I think, were possibly the first to do this, because they did He-Man as a line of toys, because their big Mattel's big seller was Barbie dolls. They didn't have much apart from the toy cars to sell to boys. They came up with He-Man and realised they needed to give this a backstory. And that fandom was based off initially the cartoon and whatever.
I mean, although to be honest, that is they Mattel care more about the ongoing canon than someone like Disney.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, they probably do.
Oh no, I disagree with that after seeing the fucking movie.
And could I just point out, people are not aware or not, Luke Skywalker eventually ends up as Skeletor. You heard this one?
What? Raising his hand patiently. We're gonna shut the fuck up.
Okay.
I thought Luke Skywalker ended up as Joker.
If you don't know the context of this, there's a He-Man reworks in the book, so I think it's animated, but Mark Hamill is voicing Skeletor.
Yeah, but Mark Hamill.
Okay.
And let Rings talk, or I'm gonna kill all of you. Okay?
But going back, you know, since we're mentioning Mark Hamill, anyways, I'll go on with my example of where a company did make changes while adapting a canon to the screen that didn't ruin it and in fact made it better. Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The change, you know, they made a bunch of changes that weren't in the comics that eventually became part of comics lore because the changes were so good.
Well, here's one I've got. This is a comic written by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, who would wrote that show. You probably know this. It's called Mad Love. And this, because they introduced a character that became in that TV show that became so popular that they decided to put her into the books. That was Harley Quinn. This is the Harley Quinn origin story. And
Mr. Freeze's dark tragic origin, that was made for the show. Originally he was just another cold themed villain.
Yeah.
So maybe the point is, you know, changing canon isn't always bad. It's just how it's handled.
Ring. I have a question. How long ago was that, though? How long was the Batman animated
92, 93, I think that was.
Yeah. It happened before I cared, so it's fine.
I honestly think that makes a difference. I think in the past, that's almost 30 years of time between the two. I think.
Yeah, but
more
the
recently.
Thing is,
okay, go ahead.
But the thing is, Batman as a character had been around since the 30s.
But my question that would have to be at this point then is when they were writers were given the remit to write the episodes or to write a comic. Do you think the writers had as their primary motive profit and appeal? Because that's the problem. I think the writers at Disney have explicitly said, are explicitly being told that how they've got to, who they've got to appeal to, and with a primary motive being on how to sell from it, rather than to tell a story that fits into the.
Yeah, all Disney cares about is selling things off brand recognition.
I really
even though though they're damaging the brand as a consequence.
I really don't care if they sell toys, as long as they don't fuck up the continuity in the process.
They don't care about selling toys.
Shut up, sir. It is entirely possible.
Oh, they do.
It is entirely possible to set up to make oh fucking hell! It's entirely possible to make a show that is popular, well liked among the masses, that will sell your toys and your McDonald's brand recognition deals and whatever, without fucking it up for the core fan base.
Well,
and it's not
part of the problem.
And I'd argue it's not even difficult.
Also means that they have to make movies, and here's the thing: when you said like you don't care if they sell toys or whatever, one of the things they're going to do with these new things is just introduce new characters for the bloody sake of it.
Yes.
Just to make toy lines.
But I just want to clarify what I meant by that before I go over to Amanda again. Right. What I meant by that was it's not. They have a fixed set of time. They want this movie to make X amount, and that's going to be this. This is going to be for 3 years. We're going to sell this number of toys. We're going to sell this number of things. Keeping the thing going is never a concern when they are planning on a movie at a time. Because it's how you end up with the way they made the movies as they did. They set aside. They might have had a small overriding thing, but it's all based on a movie at a time, and what happened at that movie was where the story would go. Where there was no real concern given to the longevity of it. Disney doesn't do that. No. I've got to go to Momma, and then I'm going to go to
look at Pirates of the Caribbean to see that.
Yes, Manda.
I was just going to say that's part of the problem, though, is the toys and the McDonald's Happy Meals or whatever that's geared toward children, but the main fan base is already older. So having to straddle that line between children and the adults that like the movies and have been around for 30 fucking years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, here's the other thing. They paid what was it, $4 billion or something for that franchise. I think it was something in that region.
Yeah.
When you paid that kind of much for a franchise, here's the thing as well. They will want to recoup that money and make a mass amount of profit on it as in as short a time as possible.
Yes.
And this is why I think as well, in an ideal world, they could have waited, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years to say to get the first new movie they're going to do right and make it something really good, and like say maybe release it this year or next year. No, they didn't do that. They put it into these things into progress straight away because it's not just that it is a long-term investment, but they want you to invest that kind of money. You want to see some return on it now.
They wouldn't get.
And that's what Disney did.
They will not get. They wouldn't have got the $4 billion they needed if they couldn't recoup that in under 5 years probably with at least 10% profit.
Yeah.
Here's what my position is going to be.
Wait there, Badger, wait. Ring!
Well,
okay. He's putting it to me.
Well, yeah, but I'll be quick because I did have something to say. It seems to me that Disney tried to repeat their MCU model, which worked brilliantly for the MCU, but the thing is that model has only really worked for the MCU.
It doesn't fit Star Wars.
No.
And I'd like to take it back to what Ring was saying about Batman. The difference you have in Batman is people who comic book consumers are used to having continuity retconned. You have things like the New 52 and stuff like that where continuity is reset or slightly changed, and it's something they're used to. So if a new medium comes out for something like a new show or whatever else, it's okay in the context of how comic books work, especially when they're talking about multiverses and stuff like that, for that to be a little bit different to how the main comic book is at the time. So it's why you can have things like the DC universe on television and the DC universe in movies be totally different, and yet it can still work. So that is actually a thing. As far as comic book continuity goes, it doesn't matter if you mess it up a little bit. It's why Disney has been able to do what they've done with Marvel, because it doesn't matter if the movies are slightly different how the comic books were, because people are used to that.
Right,
whereas
I got a thing.
Doesn't have that.
Go on, Badger.
My comment and my position is as follows. It is not particularly more difficult to still do all the toy sales and all that stuff without fucking it up for the core fan base. I don't think for a company as resourceful in terms of just raw money power as Disney, it is at all difficult.
Difficult? No. Worth the effort is the question.
Let me finish my sentence.
He's a rabid badger.
What did you think was going to happen on the stream, Dave?
We're on my special interest topic now, Dave. All bets are off. Now,
You're angry.
it is not at all difficult for someone as financially fucking well off as Disney to appeal to the masses without fucking it up for the core.
How well off they are? How is that relevant?
Because they can afford to just go, right, we can delay this by even a month and just go back through the script and make sure that it.
So we can spend an extra £10 million that gains us nothing.
They've already got. They don't even have to spend any money.
Of course they don't spend the money.
Shut up!
Yes,
they've already got
time is money.
a Star Wars continuity database in the form of the the continuity holocron and the there was a specific team for it, which I now can't remember the name of. They already had that in place. All they had to do was, during the writing process, refer to it.
Yes, but it was easier for them.
They've already got it.
Yes, but it's easier for them to turn around and say, we're just going to not worry about it.
Yeah, and build our own. Because there was so much of it, Badger. That's the point. And if they have to bring it all in to what they did in the movies, they weren't going to surprise anyone with anything. And that's what they wanted.
They would have surprised most of the core. We've already established most of the audience has never read a single.
He's gotten so angry it's broken his net connection. He did this earlier and he managed to kick Jeff from StreamYard somehow.
Badger was
just
by the dark side of the Force.
They could literally just.
He's still talking.
Badger!
You're breaking up badly.
I'm going to mute Badger for a minute.
Okay.
Badger, if you can hear us, you're just breaking up like crazy.
But hey, Jen, maybe I should do maybe I should go lizard folk so I could do a Darth Jar Jar.
No.
Oh, please do.
No.
No, I won't. No, I won't piss Amanda off anymore with any more Jar Jar impressions.
Why don't people like Jar Jar? I mean, he was comic relief in the end.
Because it's not because it was systematically not serious.
One scene in the third movie, and that was in fucking Padme's funeral line. So.
And he was in quite a few scenes in the second movie.
Yeah, and then they realized that everybody fucking hated him, and they didn't put him in the third, except to ruin fucking Padme's funeral.
We lost Badger.
We did.
Yeah.
But
look, he was a fun character.
No, he wasn't. He was obnoxious and stupid, and he failed upwards into everything, even the fucking show.
Yeah,
Amanda, I was mostly joking. The build I have in mind works best if I use a half elf.
Sorry.
We're talking about playing D&D Star Wars, Amanda.
Yeah.
Because,
and I thought it was going to be Jar Jar.
Right, Badger, since you've been gone, we took a vote and we decided that the Disney Star Wars stuff is better and the new canon is better.
He's not going to believe that. Not for a second, and I can't keep a straight face.
Don't know if he's actually back.
Okay.
He's back.
Okay, put 1 in the chat if you think that the new canon is better, and 2 in the chat if you think the.
I'm not going to look at the chat because
good.
I heard you, Dave. You can go fuck yourself. I'm not going to look at the votes in the chat because, judging by the comments in the chat, I'm going to break my laptop if I read it.
But and Scummer's just spamming one.
Lucy!
Right. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm not going to look at that vote because if it goes the wrong way,
it's all ones so far. What was one?
It's all one.
Like a week until many pieces.
Yeah, but only 3 people have voted.
Oh my god, you gotta read what Nerdy said.
Well, that's nearly. I love Disney's Star Wars. They brought the Star Wars universe to life compared to that tattered old dated vision from the 70s.
Oh.
Nerdy.
Badger is never going to speak to Nerdy again.
Is Badger a hobbit like me?
There's nothing in my reach that I can safely break.
Well, I mean, we have a free.
Shall we talk about a different franchise?
I was in the middle of a rant.
It's not our fault your rant broke your internet.
The ones that are coming in there, I think Badger's outvoted here.
Well, there was a 3.
Three, but I think we are almost at the point of consensus here.
Did you vote 3 because you think it's both, Ring?
No, I put in 3 just to troll the vote.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah.
He did.
Right.
He did 3 to save him more than 1 3 times.
What was I saying? So, they could literally have just made a film based on the original Thrawn trilogy, and it would have been better. They could literally have just made a film based on...
Yeah, but who owned those stories? Who owned those stories?
Who do you fucking think owns them? They came with Lucasfilm.
Okay, Badger, then here's a question to put that back to you. They did a movie based on the original Thrawn trilogy. Now, think about that mass 85% whatever audience who don't know the fact. You market a movie based on Thrawn, and most people are going to go, well, who the fuck is Thrawn?
Yeah.
Honestly. They're going to.
Who the fuck was Luke Skywalker when the first film came out?
Yes, but Luke Skywalker is now canon now, so bringing back the original characters was kind of important to what Disney did, especially if they were going to stamp their own seal on it.
Mm.
They had to do that to bring in their new characters.
Lucy says, "I hate Disney Pixar
series. They're all in it."
Yeah, Lucy. With a couple of exceptions, Lucy can bathe in oil.
I hate Disney Pixar. Give me Disney classics any day.
Pixar movies are okay as long as they're not Pixar remakes of other shit.
I like that. Lucy.
Well, even the worst Pixar movies are still decent.
I don't know. Well, Pixar like alone before Disney.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
even the Disney Pixar ones are okay.
I said in the chat, I like Nemo, and my son watched it 100 times. Cars isn't a great one.
It's okay.
But it reminds me of my kid because it was the first movie he saw.
Never watched any of them films.
So.
Never seen Nemo.
No.
The first Incredibles was brilliant. The second one was okay. And like the worst Pixar movies are okay. And if the worst you do is okay, then as a whole you're pretty damn good.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Hans says, just me that hopes that Disney gets super goofy to the Marvel universe.
With that being said, I would say the last 3 Star Wars movies were okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, what do we think about...
We're planning on talking Marvel as well. But the problem is I don't think that Disney have actually wrecked Marvel.
Okay, yeah. Let's just go back, because we touched on it earlier. Probably before the stream. I can't remember, it was that long ago. Right. Harry Potter.
Ooh,
right. Now, Harry Potter is being destroyed by its original creator.
Author.
Yeah, it is. Her fucking... Okay, I don't even like Harry Potter that much, and it still pisses me off. All these random add-ons that she has now.
Right.
It's just stupid. It's unnecessary. So
she wouldn't be the original. She wouldn't be the first creator to ruin her own series.
Well, Star Wars has done a little bit of that too since the release of the last movie.
Do I need to break Jar Jar out again?
Either someone kicks Jeff or I fucking leave. I swear to God. But no, they've been doing the same thing with the Star Wars one, because even since the last movie that they came in and said, oh no, Rey's, Palpatine being Rey's grandfather, he was actually a clone of the original. Like, they just keep changing shit, and it's stupid. It's unnecessary.
Yes.
Hey, Jeff, can you read Nerdy's most recent comment?
In all honesty,
I'm trying not to annoy Manda anymore.
I wanted to ask Manda a question. Did you guys have to do that?
I haven't read it. Amanda's gone. I haven't read it.
No, shush.
I'm not going to.
Shut.
I said I wasn't going to.
Amanda, would you have been happier with that? Because I think I would have been if they'd said that the Palpatine who'd been on the second Death Star had been the clone, and Palpatine himself had hidden away on the Jedi world.
Yes, and that's actually something my son and I discussed, and said that it would make more sense that he had taken off and because he had been making these clones for a long time. So,
that was within canon. So.
There's already clones.
That would have been a good way of doing it.
Yes, of course there is.
Yeah.
There's a whole story about it.
There's already Palpatine clones in the expanded universe.
But I think Disney want to take off I think the main reason they wanted to get rid of the expanded universe was so that they could use the stories in different ways.
Yes, I agree with you, Dave. I think that's the point.
I think that's the underlying reason.
And I don't see that that's necessarily a problem. I don't know that it's necessarily a problem that you have the expanded universe as its own thing, and then you also have the movie universe as Disney are taking it now. It's not necessarily a problem. My problem with it is the quality of that middle movie, which ultimately affected the quality of the third movie.
The thing with cutting the extended universe off, though, is that like people like us that know it, even before we watched the last movie, Angel and I had all these theories and everything that would have fit with the extended universe, but we couldn't, and it wouldn't make sense because the movies were separate.
Yeah,
they could have done so much with the the buildup of what they had of the extended universe.
Oh yeah, they definitely could have. They definitely could have fitted it in better and still told a different story.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. It's possible, but they chose not to do that. That wasn't necessarily a problem had the movies been good enough stories in their own rights. And I think that's more of a problem than them dissing canon, per se. The fact that they weren't good enough to say, okay, we could say, okay, we're going to ignore the rest of the book canon because we're going in our own direction. That's fine, as long as you make something good enough to establish that. And they did.
I'm going to strongly disagree with you there.
You can strongly disagree with me with that. I'm sure Amanda does too.
I will strongly disagree with you. A deviation from the book canon is unforgivable.
No, you see, I disagree there.
So when they go back, what do you think about Harry Potter again? Because there's constant changes of the book canon.
Yeah.
I think Harry Potter and Star Wars are different entities.
Of course they're different entities. But
Potter,
we're dealing with the concept here, not the story you love.
Yeah.
In Harry Potter, JK's just making a mess.
Yeah, she is.
He doesn't care, he's lost interest.
That's it. I mean, I love the Harry Potter books. I don't think the movies were as good as the books. And I don't think her prequel work, I don't think any of her work that she's done outside of the core Harry Potter has been anywhere near as good as
Do you know what I find really funny?
Harry Potter actually isn't that good as a story.
But I find really funny is it's all
story.
No, what I find really funny is she screwed herself in one fucking interview where she said there would be 5 books. And she has done everything to make sure that she could only have 5, and she doesn't want to go back on it, so she comes up with all this fucking weird shit so that she's not writing another Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Jassa made put in a very good comment. Abrams used Star Trek rules to reboot Star Trek. Not the biggest fan of the new stuff, but at least it's not bad. Disney cut off more history just to make money.
Yes, completely and utterly.
And
we could talk here about Discovery as it currently stands. Because Discovery...
Discovery is a pile of shit.
No, I like Discovery, but I have a problem with how it fits.
Discovery is a pile of shit.
Yeah, screw you. Right.
Thank you.
I like it in its own right. I don't like how it fits. No, it doesn't fit at all.
Okay, I'll agree with you with that. It's probably okay. The things I've seen of it, it's okay if you ignore it being Star Trek.
I mean, I don't understand why they did it then. If they'd have set it in the future...
It could have worked, yes, I agree. Yeah, it's a ridiculous... It doesn't fit the timeline at all. It doesn't fit the new movie timeline or the normal timeline. It's ridiculous. On the other hand, Picard fits.
Yes.
Picard isn't without its own problems, but Picard fits, and I've really enjoyed it.
I have massive issues with Picard.
You have massive issues with everything.
No. Just you have massive issues.
At this point, I just have massive issues.
Have you seen a Dr. Badger?
No, they're all busy.
Dealing with COVID.
Except for the one in the box that's getting bought by Disney.
Oh, that was the most fun thing we've ever done. That was hilarious.
I'm really trying not to break things. Please stop making it harder.
Hello?
First of all, 6 books, not 5 books.
Oh, I can't remember.
7 movies. Get it right.
7 books. Yep, 6 books. Right. 7 movies.
If you're going to have a debate, be factual, be correct, Dave.
To be fair, we're not actually discussing the specifics of the franchise. We're trying very hard not to discuss the specifics.
You're trying
Dave,
very hard.
Better off dropping down Jeff because he's not here at the moment.
Yeah.
No. Oh.
I came for a debate about Disney, and you're talking about Star Wars, so I've disliked the stream, just so you know. And J.K. Rowling has done a lot of other stuff, for instance, the Fantastic Beasts and stuff, because the fans have asked for it. She's also written a lot of other fiction and stuff under different names, so people don't know it's her. So she hasn't screwed herself over totally. Is she a bit egotistical? Yeah, but then I would be if I wrote fucking Harry Potter. Just saying.
Yeah. She's not a great author, though. Most of her stuff is very bad. She's a dreadful person.
In your opinion.
Oh, God. I've seen her tweets. She's a dreadful person.
In your opinion.
Oh God, and Jeff's back.
Come on!
What?
I've watched you for weeks being pedantic.
Yes?
It's my turn.
About her, yeah.
Right, but do you not...
Have you not seen the stuff that JK has tweeted
No,
about
we're not
things?
talking about JK, apart from what she has done to the franchise.
Okay, we won't talk about her as a person. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy Harry Potter, but it's not the best of literature there's ever been. It is very derivative of other works. There's lots of continuity issues within the stories themselves, which is fine because lots of other stories have that too. It's just, it's not going to... It's going to stand the test of popular literature, but I don't think it's going to be a classical piece of literature.
How is that relevant to what we're talking about?
What are you talking about? Because since I've come in, I don't know what you're chatting about.
We're talking about people damaging the franchise, the canon.
Mainly big corporations. I wasn't going to wait too much. I wasn't going to wait too much on the Star Trek thing because I actually like Discovery. However, I should qualify it saying that I'm not a massive Star Trek fan in general, so perhaps I'm unaware of how much it might mess up.
It's meant to fit before original series.
I get the idea. I get the idea of that. I just don't know. But to me, it's it's watching quite enjoyable series. But I have no other context for it other than that because I don't. I'm not a massive Star Trek fan.
Again?
Say again?
The problem with Discovery and, by extension, the newer Star Trek films...
I really need a gavel.
...is they have tried to... it's the opposite problem they have with Star Wars, or at least part of it is. With Star Wars, they've made something that looks and feels kind of Star Wars-y, but is wrong. Whereas with Discovery, they've just made something that looks and feels like Star Wars instead of Star Trek.
Yes,
but we're talking about adaptations and franchises and why they go wrong.
Yeah. I don't know that Discovery has. It's made a bit of a thing within the Star Trek community in that people like it or people hate it, but it hasn't been as divisive as Disney Star Wars has.
I saw what they did with the Klingons and immediately went, oh, they fucked it up.
So you didn't even give it a chance.
Maybe it's because of the fact that it is a bit different from a lot of the other Star Trek series is why I've kind of liked it. I know. So I've never really been able to get into any Star Trek series. So,
though, that being said, there are two adaptations coming up that I'm very wary of.
Okay.
Of what?
One is that this Amazon Middle Earth series, especially.
Oh no! Don't do that. No. Oh God, Bennett, that's going to be dreadful.
Yeah, and the other one would be the Netflix Wheel of Time, but that's mostly because I don't think that can be successfully done in live action.
But Netflix seems to be wanting to. The stuff that Netflix have adapted recently, they seem to have gone to them and said, "We need you to write a screenplay for this," and they seem to have let them have relatively free reign and done a really good job on lots of things.
Yeah.
Whereas,
The Witcher was pretty good.
It's just the thing is, with the scope of the Wheel of Time, I think Netflix is biting off more than they can chew if they're doing it.
The problem with Wheel of Time is there's 22 books.
Yeah.
There's 22 books, and a lot of throughout the books are still the same characters. You're gonna have people dead before you finish making this.
Yeah.
Or you're going to cut out so much that you're going to piss the fan base off. I don't see how there's any win situation for making a Wheel of Time series.
Well,
unless it's animated.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll give you a good example. And some big company fucking up something that is good. And I'm not going to say everything that like this was done was good, but the Netflix Marvel stuff, by and large, I thought was really good. The reason
Except
that's ended,
Defenders and
Flash. I mean, Iron Fist left a lot to be desired, I think, but certainly stuff like Daredevil and the Punisher, and first couple of seasons of Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage.
I like Jessica Jones.
Luke Cage was okay. It wasn't
the first season of Luke Cage was really good. I think the second season lost track of itself somewhere.
I liked the second season of Luke Cage.
I think the second series of Iron Fist was a lot better than the first, but they'd already kind of lost a lot of people at the first. But
there's a second series of Iron Fist?
Yeah, there is. There's a third season of Jessica Jones as well.
Yeah.
But I liked the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Except for the first season of Iron Fist.
Daredevil and Punisher were my absolute. Oh, have we lost? Who we lost?
Badger.
Yeah.
Back. But
it's me, my internet broke.
It was Daredevil and particular Punisher I like, maybe because Punisher was a little bit. It was in that same universe, was a little bit of a standalone. It was maybe a bit more grounded in reality compared to some of the others. I thought it was a really good, and it's a kind of annoying that they weren't just at least let Disney Netflix keep that going, because Disney stuff are not going to put anything as fucking violent as Punisher on screen.
Oh yeah. And Punisher season 2 was amazing.
Both seasons I thought were amazing, but season 2
was
really good.
Season 2 was much better than season 1.
I enjoyed season 1. I didn't really get into season 2.
Right.
So
we should really go. We've achieved absolutely nothing. We've managed to increase Badger's blood pressure.
That's been fun.
Increase Badger's blood pressure. I've managed to piss off Badger and Amanda with my Jar Jar impressions, and
I think we gave Amanda an aneurysm.
Yeah,
I think Jeff gave Amanda an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Blame Jeff.
That's what. Blame me today.
And Nerdy has tried to wind everything up.
I'm sorry, Amanda, that your icon isn't on the thumbnail, because we sort of asked you after we already had it done.
Right. I say thank you very much, Mr. Bad-Tempered Badger. You have been suitably as your name.
Okay.
I say thank you very much.
Morgan can take a swan dive into Mountain Dew.
Can I just say, Badger, we love you, we care about you, and we think you might need some therapy after this.
And can I move a motion at the end of this stream then that can we agree that Disney should buy the rights to the Bible and totally retcon the fuck out of everything?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Can they do our version of it?
Yeah, from I don't know. We're doing a pretty good job of at least retconning the New Testament.
They might piss off some of the original fan base, but
they should do that and then never make anything else.
You know what I'm saying, Badger?
They should do that and then never make anything else ever again.
They'll just
Disney. They'll probably buy the Bible, the Quran, and the Talmud and mix it all together.
And call it Star Wars.
You Dave.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
Jesus
Luke Skywalker versus Satan lightsaber duel. Would that work?
Yeah. Jesus versus Muhammad, Civil War.
Sabers in the Garden of Eden.
The New Testament on ice.
If it's
Live action.
It's funny because I used to have a friend that was a skater for Disney on Ice, by the way, for like 15 years. So
if it's the book version of Luke at the time of the Yuuzhan Vong War, he would beat the fuck out of Satan easily.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He probably beat the fuck out.
To be honest with you.
Fair, he probably beat the fuck out of God as well, and that's why that
Yeah,
time.
yeah, he would.
I gotta say thank you to Jen, thank you to Jeff, thank you to Ring, thank you very much to Lucy for popping up, and Kick Nerdy and the Bollocks for trolling everyone, and thank you to everyone else in the live chat. I have no doubt we'll do something similar again soon, because I don't think it's ever going to be resolved.
Oh, and this was so much fun.
Return of the Rabbi.
Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, goodbye.